Okay, hi. We are today going to do some ears for our goblin character. And decided that the character is going to be a kind of high energy, slightly manic personality. So we're going to do pointy ears that point up. And this will be a demonstration of how to do some basic ears, but then take it sort of one step further and do a little bit more with them. But you can sort of take this as a standard going forward, and then just sort of build onto it and add on to your own ideas and your own techniques. So what we're going to do to start with is just kind of get a feel for the shape. Now let me go to the wide camera here, and we'll show you the character we're working on here. So this is our goblin with the fun curved mouth plate. And so we want to do some pointy ears that stick up, because they're going to be sort of high energy and very, very frantic. So we know they're going to go on a curved surface. So the way I always start this, now we don't want them to be relatively large too, I think. And this is, again, this all depends on the kind of personality you're going for, on what the character is. This is where you get to make those kind of decisions. And it's amazing how much it will either add or take away from a performer's perception of the character. What you should be aiming for, at least with this style of Muppety style puppet, is always, without seeing the puppet being performed, you should get an idea of what their personality is like as soon as you see it. So that's what we're aiming for. And if we're going for a slightly kind of high energy and manic kind of character, the ears are going to do a lot to sell that. And so if they're pointing up and they're also fairly large and prominent, we're going to get an immediate kind of vibe check from that. So I don't know if you can see. Yeah, it's not too bad. So I'm going to start by just kind of penciling in. This is a curved surface that we're doing here, and this is what's going to go against the head. And I'm going to show this from all the way. We're going to make the two ears and go all the way to the point that we're sewing it on the head. And we know we want them to point up. Now, ears in general, pointy or not, generally start with a kind of roundish base. So I always kind of rough out a kind of round shape coming off of the point that's going to be against the head. This is where, like, you know, if you wanted a lobe, you would put a lobe in here, that kind of thing. We're not doing a lobe for this particular goblin, but that's where you'd put it. You were. And now we want them pointing up. I don't want them to be too curly. We are going to lose some definition when we sew the fleece for this. So we don't want to go too fine detail. You don't want to do like a Tim Burton style spiral at the end of the ear or something. That's going to be a real nightmare to try and make. So we're just going to go kind of like that. Let's do that. Your classic Spock, as it were. And I'm going to add a little bit of a contour here at the bottom to give it something interesting. Now, I think that's pretty good. What we do have to do is remember that we're going to need two of these. So we're going to cut one out, then we're going to trace it again and cut it again, because we are obviously going to need two, because we're going to use this cardboard as the actual core of the ear itself. It's just handy, and one of the things I like about doing it with at least a thin material like cardstock is it will give some secondary motion, so the ears will kind of move around and flap, particularly if they're large like this. And that's good. You want that. You want as much kind of motion in the puppet as possible. So let's just take that. We'll cut it out. We'll put it against the head and see if we like it. And the curve that goes against the head, don't worry about getting it like perfectly conformed to the specific head. The stitching will take care of that. Just get a curved surface that will kind of sit flat enough. There we go. There's our ear shape. So let's go to this camera. We will have a look at, move the mouse and hope I don't click on anything I shouldn't. So here we go. Here's, yeah, that's all right. Yeah. Now we can put them a little farther forward or a little farther back. This curve is actually a little too steep. I may want to sort of even that out before I the surface that's going against is relatively flat, so you don't have to have this much of a curve. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. Okay, let's go with it. Let's do the thing. So we said we do want to actually flatten out this curve a little bit. Now, which way we do that will depend on how the ear sits, obviously, because if we take some off of the top here, this is going to sit more forward like that. So we can kind of decide where we want to, how we want this to sit on the head. I think forward is not a bad approach, so let's do it like that. Let's cut a piece off here. We'll test this against head. Oh yeah, this is much more flush. Yeah, let's do that. And then we can, once we cut the second one out, we'll put them both against the head and make sure that they sort of look right where they're aligned. So always, when you are going to do a pattern like this, always mirror it, even if it's going to be identical, because symmetry is weird. So it's not always what your eyeball shows you. Or rather, it is what your eyeball shows you. It's not always what your brain perceives. Okay, there we go. Cut that out. Now, there's several ways. I mean, there's any way you can think of to make these kind of things. There's no hard and fast rule. This is just the way I do it, kind of quick and easy. If I was going to do this as a carved foam ear, for example, both the Oracle and Frankie's ears are carved foam that are then covered in fleece. I would still do it like this. I would still get this as the basic shape. Toss it somewhere, and then I would use that as the kind of foundation and then build off of that, which we are kind of going to do with this. We're just going to do kind of a light version of it. So there we go. That, you can tell already, that looks pretty good just on the table like that. So let's have a look on the head. So let's go to the wide cam and have a look at these ears. Actually in situ, as we say in archaeology. Oh, hey, yeah, I think we're good. I'm liking that. Yep. Nothing more to say. We're good to go. Okay. So that being so, once we've got a design that we like, then we're going to get some fleece that is, the same color as the skin, if that's what you're doing. If you're doing them in a different color, get a different color. Pretty logical. Oh, of course, all of my fleece is wrapped around the cord of the sewing machine. One of the things I'm doing on tomorrow's day off-ish is cleaning up the studio. I know I say that a lot. Okay, so we've got some fleece here. This is the same color as the skin. And all we're gonna do is do the folding in half thing, just like we did with the hands. Making sure that the stretch, now the stretch in this case, we wanna make sure that the stretch is going that way, up and down. We don't want it to be stretching along the length, much like the fingers. We don't want it to be stretching, making the fingers long. We don't want it to make the ear long. We want the stretch to go across the ear, not down the ear. So let's make sure that we do that. Try and get this slightly more manageable. This is just like tons of bits all connected together. Oh wow, those are my cardboard scissors. Don't try and cut fabric with those. You will not be happy. Here we go. Okay. So there's the width. So we want the ear to be placed kind of like that. Want the stretch going this way, right? So let's see if we can get 2 ears worth out of this as we fold it over. Making sure that we give enough of a seam allowance that we aren't leaving ourselves too short. Yeah, that's okay. Let me just trim this down a little bit here, make it a bit more manageable. And so just to make sure that we've got our edges lined up. And so the stretch is going this way. And again, always make sure that you mirror the pattern. So this is gonna be a bit tricky. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe I need another piece. I don't want to leave myself no room between them. Okay, there's hardly any room. You know what? I'm going to get another. I've got enough. We don't have to. We don't have to constrain ourselves that much. So I'm going to clip this together while it's still aligned. Okay. I was just checking the YouTube chat thing again. Okay. So while we're here, I'm just going to draw this in. I usually do it in a slightly darker color than the fleece is, but still not completely contrasting. Don't do it in black or something. You want to do it in a similar color. And I'm going to draw it slightly outside the line, because this is polar fleece. It's not quite as stretchy as Nyla fleece. I want to give it a little bit of room. Here we go. Yeah, you can see that. Okay. So that's one. I'm going to make sure we know it's this way. Let's get the other one. There's enough fabric here. I'm out of lozenge already. The more you talk, the more lozenge you go through. That's the lesson for the day, children. Talk less and you'll save on lozenges. Avoid the lozenge tariff. Okay. So let me just get this all kind of lined up here so we can trim off the appropriate amount. So that's that way. So we know that if we did it like this, and we want to flip it around, do it like that. We're going to just trim it enough to make sure that the edges are lined up. That should be good. Always leave a little bit more than you think you should, just in case the machine decides to get frisky and run away with you. All right, so we're gonna clip this together too. We'll trace our pattern and then we will get the machine out. Speaking of the machine. Okay, put a couple more clips on this just to make sure it'll hold together. And we will trace ear number 2. There isn't really a left and right designation at this point. Now these won't be, unless you're very, very accurate, these will not end up being mathematically symmetrical. As I have mentioned several times, I don't really worry too much about that. But the slower you go, the more symmetrical they'll be. Okay, there we go. We have our 2 ears. So here we go. We're on the machine. So this is already threaded because I was sewing the arms. So what we're going to do is we're going to stitch around. Can't really see. I should go to a different camera. We are going to stitch around the circumference of the ear, but not the opening. This is the part that's going to go against the head. We just want to leave that open. We're basically making a little sock kind of a thing. So this should not take very long at all. It's like a simplified version of how we did the hands. Where's my pedal? Oh no. As I'm pulling this out, I hope it doesn't activate. It was buried in some fabric. All right, here we go. So once we get to the ear tip, we are going to do what we did with the fingers. We're just going to, sorry, I gotta move this, it's a little off center. Here we go. To do sink the needle, raise the foot, reposition the fleece, and we're gonna give it 3 or 4 stitches before we go around the tip of the ear. Just because when we turn this, we want there to be enough space. We don't want a completely sharp point. We're going to kind of round off the tip. And you'll see once we get there, but that is strictly before the turning it, because we're making this inside out, then we're going to flip it around. And so it's just really hard to push it out without a little bit of room to do that. The end, we backstitch, and there we go. That's one. Now you see that didn't take long at all. These are nice, quick and easy style ears. And I do these fairly frequently. tip of the ear. So we do the whole thing where we give it a little space. I really gotta get a better camera angle for the sewing machine. This is not helpful. I don't think you can see anything. But, we'll work on it. I think I got some ideas. We'll fix it. Don't worry, YouTube. We'll fix it, or PeerTube, or whatever. This is going everywhere, so you know. Okay, something's gone wrong. The machine unthreaded itself. Of course it did. So, this can show you what can potentially happen. I'm not sure why, but the machine decided to unthread itself. So we're going to rethread the machine. I'm also going to cut this, and we're going to have to go over one of those stitch lines again just to make sure it doesn't come unraveled. It's fine. Things happen. I got some different thread. I'm having to adjust the tension on the machine a little bit, and I think it's just, there's some adjustment period. Excuse me a moment while I rethread. Editing Kevin, if you're watching this, cut this out. If you're watching. Okay, there we go. Let's try that again, shall we? Where are we here? There, so we were just coming up to the tip, so just start down about an inch or so. Just go over that stitch line again, just to make sure it's all locked into place. Cut off a little bit of this excess to make sure it doesn't get all gummed up. Okay, so now that we're here at the tip, we're gonna go over here, give it a few turns, make a nice rounded edge, and then on our merry way. Okay, hopefully that took. Like the camera angle, the lighting is nice and cozy. Yeah, you can't really see what's going on though. I think if I have it sort of up more, kind of like this, you'll at least be able to see the pattern and stuff. I just have to get something to put the camera on. Okay, anyway, we're done with the sewing machine for now, so we don't even have to worry about it. Yeah, I know I'm probably in the way of the camera. Okay. So, here we go. Same as the hands. We've just traced around our pattern lines. We can get rid of the clips now. And again, you don't have to use clips. You can absolutely use pins. I just use clips because they're not as pointy. And therefore, I am less likely to injure myself with them. All right, so now all we do is we just cut this out, same as we did the hands. Trim off the excess thread. And remember, we did trace this slightly larger than the actual pattern. You'll see why momentarily. All right, there's one. gonna have a little extra thread at the tip where we had to rethread. Clean that up a little bit. And just like you're making hands, careful you don't cut across the stitch line. You have about a little quarter of an inch or so. There. You have about that much. Called it 3 millimeters. All right. So, here we are. Our ears are now sewn and cut out. So now what we have to do is turn them. I usually, much like doing hands, I'll usually just take up a rounded tip of something. This just happens to be a fabric marker. And we try and get it as turned as possible. And then once we get down to the tip, kind of poke it through. You're never going to turn it completely. Just kind of want to get it as far as you can. Don't bust your stitches, obviously. But this is why we left the rounded tip at the top, because as you can see, we do lose a degree of definition. The tip gets kind of curved, but that's necessary because the fleece has thickness. And if we were to just use the pattern as is, it wouldn't have accounted for that thickness, and the cardboard cores would stick out instead of being nicely nestled inside. So if you want to try and make the tips a little bit more pointy, you can get in there with something a little bit less rounded. Be careful because you don't want to poke through the fabric. Gently try and push it through. Don't go overboard. If you wanted really, really pointy, you would have to, like, you know, add something on externally. To add a little piece on once it's in place, kind of thing. But there we go. This'll do. Here's our ears. Now we insert, well, we do a test fit for the cardboard. We're actually going to go a little bit farther than that, but if you're just doing very simple flat ears, this is it. We're going to take those two cardboard ears that we made, and we're just going to kind of put them in their little coats here. And they're not going to want to go in, but you just gently negotiate. They'll sit in there eventually. And if they stick out a little bit, that's okay. Don't worry about that. We could always trim it off, or once we sew it in, it'll be fine. This is, you can see how much, like, this is why we trace outside the lines, because otherwise we'd never get the cardboard in there. Here we go. See, after a while, it'll just kind of sit in there. You don't have to use cardboard for this. You can use plastic. You can use anything. This just happens to be convenient. And I mean, the only time you would ever need to worry about it is if this got wet. And don't get it wet. It's like a gremlin. Don't get the goblin ear wet. Okay, there we go. All right. So now you could just go with this, and I have very often, but I'm gonna go a little bit farther. We're going to actually add a little bit of contour in here, because what's a nice thing to do is if you add sort of like a cartilage ridge along the top and the part that goes against the head, there's that little kind of cartilage bump that most ears have in the ear canal, as it were. So we're going to add some of that onto this. So We're not gonna put the second one in. We did that as a test fit, and this looks pretty good. So we're good. We're actually gonna pull it out now, because what we wanna do is add some stuff onto this cardboard core. And specifically, and then we're just gonna eyeball this, draw it in. This is what I wanna add. We wanna add kind of a ridge like this. We are going to go all the way up the ear, right to the end. Can't you see that? There you go. That's what we're doing. And if you don't make it perfectly symmetrical, it's kind of good because it adds a little bit of organicness. Very, very few things in nature are perfectly symmetrical. So there we go. So what we're going to do with this is we're just going to glue some foam onto here and then sort of trim it down. And once we've done that, then we're going to stick it in, and then we're going to put a little bit of glue inside and kind of tack this down so it will kind of lay perfectly against. Now you can do it with spray adhesive. I'm not quite sure how I want to do it quite yet, but anyway, back to the ear. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take a piece of foam here. I've just got some scrap foam. We're just going to cut out kind of a shape. In fact, you know what we're going to do? We're going to just trace this ear onto here, and then we're going to cut them out. We're just going to use this as a kind of visual guide. So let's do that. So we know we want to go kind of like this. Oh, who's that? I think Jimmy's here. Jimmy has stealthily entered the studio. I told you to announce your presence, buddy, otherwise I'm going to roll over you. Neither of us will enjoy that. Let me just cut this out and we'll get Jimmy to have the Jimmy cameo. I've tried to shoot a produced video here, buddy. Your timing is impeccable as always. This actually is not a bad little demonstration of something else you can do. But for that, because he's got to get in the way of my editing. Otherwise, what's the point of being a cat? Here's Jimmy. Hello, Jimmy. The camera's at a weird angle. You don't like this. You don't like this. He's not a happy Jimmy. Jimmy just woke up from a nap. He's still a little groggy. How you doing, buddy? Can you build the puppets? No, don't be sniffing that. Gotta be real careful with animals in the studio. Particularly this one who likes to hoover up anything. His butt chickens, I was sitting next to them yesterday and ended up with one on my shoulder. Nice! Hey buddy, you waking up now? You know? That's good. Indy has chickens. You would like that. Okay, James, I'm in the middle of doing a demonstration and I'm trying to edit this down to a proper video, so you gotta clear up, buddy. There's your Jimmy cameo for the stream. Anyway, this one's gonna be a lot of editing. I was hoping to avoid a lot of editing, but hey, it is what it is. Okay, I need more foam. There's some more foam right there. This one's already got something drawn on it, but we'll figure that out. So, there's a couple of ways you can approach this now. Now we could have started here. We didn't have to go with the cardboard at all, or we could just use the cardboard as a template. And if we were going to do carved foam ears that are all carved foam. This is kind of where we would start, only I would start with a thicker foam. Both Frankie and the Oracle's ears are carved out of inch-thick foam. But this is kind of how I did it. So I'll just give a little sort of peek at how that works. This is not a practical demonstration, this is a theoretical demonstration. So once you've got your shape, your basic shape cut out of the foam, and this is one of the reasons why you gotta be real careful. And again, usually I use inch thick, or I'll laminate 2 pieces of 1/2 inch thick together. When you get your razor blade, I was sure I had one already open. Yes, I do. Okay, good. I didn't lose one. That would be bad. And let me see. I'm going to try and demonstrate this on camera. Oh, good heavens! That's no good. There we are. Okay. So what I'll do, if I'm going to do a carved foam ear, I'll start cutting away. Now we obviously want the cartilage bit to be raised and the not cartilage bit to be recessed. So we want to cut away, sort of carve out the recessed bit. So I'll start by going in a little bit, and you can do this with an X-Acto knife too, and just kind of tracing along that line. This is tricky because I'm usually doing this with inch thick, not 1/2 inch, so we've got to go even lighter. And then on the edge, I'll trace kind of halfway, do like a cross section. Where we want to get to. This is just a little demonstration of how I would do we're not doing carved foam ears entirely, but you can see I just traced halfway along the thickness. Then we're going to start cutting that away. This is very tricky to do. I'm making 1/4 inch thick. But I just go in little, gentle, slowly carving pieces out. Try not to go too far. It's okay if you go a little bit too far. But you can see, you can start pulling out. You just gotta be real careful and don't cut yourself, obviously. Hello, Jimmy. Yes, I hear you. I don't know if everybody else did, but Jimmy's sitting behind me yelling his head off. There we go. We start pulling that out. So we just start carving away the stuff that we want. And I know it looks a bit crude, but don't worry. It'll be fine. This isn't how it's going to go on the head anyway. This is going to be covered in fabric. But that's basically what I do. I'll just carve away the bit that I want recessed. And then we would take some fleece and some spray adhesive and just cover this, stretch it over the surface, and then try and sort of like massage it down into it. We're doing a slightly different version of that with this. But what we're doing is, instead of carving away foam, is we're just removing the foam entirely. This is a kind of easier version of that if we're going to do with a cardboard core. Go back to the top here. Because then you don't have to mess around with razor blades at all. You just cut out the bit that you want as the cartilage. And we're just going to glue this like that onto the cardboard. This isn't, once we're done, this isn't going to add a lot of contour, but it will add a little bit. It will give a little bit of topography to the ear, which is nice. Yeah, you're tired too, Demon Dreamer. I've been sleeping really well lately, except for last night. I don't know, I've been having unusually good luck with the insomnia, and then last night it was back. Of course, stream day. Just my luck. Still here though. Still here doing it for you. Okay, so there we go. We've got our two cartilage ridges. Now, if you wanted more definition, you could make this out of a more rigid material, like EVA foam or something. You could make this out of a harder. What's going to happen is when we shove this in the sock of the ear, as it were, this is all going to sort of squish down and flatten. So it's only going to add a little bit of contour, and then we're going to shade it a little bit. But this is just sort of give an idea. This isn't to really add a lot of definition. We're just kind of giving a little bit of 3D-ness to the ear. So now you could glue this together. You should glue this together with the Danger Honey. We are going to be getting the Danger Honey out for the next bit, but I don't want to do it quite yet. So I am just going to use hot glue for this. It will be fine. It's foam on cardboard. It'll be fine. And this is really just going to hold it in place while we get everything going. So we're just going to drop a little hot glue onto the surface. And then lay this down. Now it's okay if it goes over the edge a little bit because we're going to carve a little bit of this away. We'll just sort of hold that down. I need to redo my goblin sitting. This gives me ideas for the ears. You've done 3D printed ones too. I haven't done 3D printed ears. Well, actually I have. You're right. It wasn't for goblins. It was actually for the Nosferatu a little while ago. A couple of years ago at this point. But it was real tricky because the 3D printed cores got real heavy. Even if I had to go really, really light on the infill. They ended up okay, but I would advise when you're modeling them, try and find, do a honeycomb kind of a thing with it. Only use it as like a scaffolding. Don't print like a solid ear. Even the skin, don't print as a solid wall. Just try and do like a kind of wireframe that you're going to then wrap fabric around if you're going to do 3D printing, because it's surprising how heavy that gets relatively quickly. So yeah, low weight is always the best idea. That's why I would be using 3D printing for everything, but it's not actually that great for some stuff like this where weight matters. You're going to be really judicious with it. And also, use your weight budget. It's like getting an aircraft ready or something, right? You have a weight budget, use it where it counts. So in this case, because I'm doing the funky 3D printed eyes, that's where I'm spending my weight budget. So I'm trying to not have a weight budget for the ears. Okay, so here we go. We're at this stage. Now let's go to the close-up cam. We can show you. And this is all, and that's on there. It's on there pretty good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to round out these edges. Now, don't have to worry about rounding out the edge that's going to go against the head. In fact, it's better if that's flat. But these edges here, we're just going to contour a little bit. Let me get my foam shears out. My other foam shears, my small foam shears. And these are handy because they're curved as well, so. And we're just gonna don't have to do a lot. This will all kind of mush down if it's in the fleece. And also I want to sort of trim down the horizontal or the vertical height here. I want it to come to a kind of point. This is where you can just kind of go with the flow and feel it and start getting a nicer kind of cross section and contours. It's also not a bad idea to try and trim off as much of the marker as possible. I want as much of a ridge here as I can get, just because it'll look nicer. Some depth, so we're only going to worry about the edge here. And that's it. You don't have to do too much. Again, this is all going to squish down once you get it in the actual skin. We're just giving this a little bit of a shave. Not even on camera there, kind of. When I come to the ear tip, I usually just look and see. It's like, oh, okay, that should go like that. We'll start rounding it off. Now, if you want to get really finicky, what you can do then, after you've carved your basic shape, is you can use something like one of these. This is a sweater defuzzer. This will actually sand down and smooth over the foam. This is really useful for making carved foam stuff. Oops, I just bumped the camera. Everything's okay. All right. Yeah, so anyway, there we go. Now that's all I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna go to extremes or anything. So now what we wanna do is, I got a little bit of foam everywhere. We're going to, let's go to the top cam. Shove this back up inside the skin and kind of see where we are. I'm sure we're gonna wanna put some glue in here and have the fleece lay flat against it just so we can get a better idea of the contours. But you see why the cardboard helps with this, because it's rigid, right? So it helps you kind of get it in place a little bit easier. Otherwise, this can be a real struggle. With foam, forget about it. That's why I always do the spray adhesive. If I'm just going to cover foam with fleece, I don't even try and do it like this. The foam just crushes down and collapses into nothing, right? So do a big ball of mush. But in this case, we're not too bad. You know what? That's we can get to a quite interesting place here, I think. Try and just get it up as far as you can. Seat it as tightly as you can. Now, we are going to glue this down inside. Just so the fleece will lie against this contour here and give us a nice kind of rounded edge like that. How you do that is optional. I am going to use contact cement because that is definitely the best tool for the job. You could try using hot glue for that. I would advise against it because you are going to have to get your fingers in there and get real close to it, so it's dangerous. Even more dangerous than the highly toxic chemicals, believe it or not. But what we're going to want to do, no matter what, let me actually go to the tight cam here, is we're going to want to put some glue inside and have this tacked down so the fleece will sit flush and it will kind of bring out this ridge that we carved here and on the cartilage side, or the ear canal side, I should say. Now you see, even though we trace the pattern a bit bigger, we're still kind of running into space issues now that we've got the foam on there, because that's taking up even more. So it is worth giving yourself enough leeway. All I'm really worried about is I want to make this ridge kind of stand out right here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get some danger honey out, and we're going to put it inside and just try and tack this down. You could also try doing spray adhesive. As long as you can get inside there and sort of get it dispersed, that might actually be a better option. You know what? That's what we're going to do. We're going to try that. I think that would be a better option than trying to like stick a brush inside here and try and brush it down. I don't know. Either would be fine. I want to try the spray adhesive. All right. So what I'm going to do, what the plan is, let me move these out of the way and just get a sense of how this stuff is gonna come out. Okay. So, I'm gonna stick the nozzle in there, give it a spritz, and hopefully that will disperse the adhesive inside the cavity here. I'm going to keep it open. That felt pretty good. I'm just going to get the hairdryer out and let it dry for a little bit. Alright, so now that adhesive is inside there, we're going to start kind of massaging this, tacking it down. I don't think it went in far enough. It's good at the corner here. That looks alright. Yeah, this is not the best. Maybe we will go with the Danger Honey. Oh, also my spray adhesive just ran out. Like literally this. Oh. Okay, we'll do one with the spray adhesive and one with the Danger Honey. Look, this is the kind of improvising you have to do when you're working. All right, it'll do. We'll get the point across. Let's do the other one, not like that, because I clearly need more spray adhesive. So to tack this down inside, you can try doing spray adhesive. We just tried that and it wasn't the best. Also, my spray adhesive ran out, so I would suggest doing it this way. Getting some contact cement. I'm going to get a thin applicator. And we're just going to try a little bit of surgery here, getting this inside and painting it inside like that. And hopefully, don't get too much in there. You really want this very, very light. So we're just going to get a little bit on the applicator. And we're going to start painting that down along the surface here, just along the ridge. Now, before this dries, we're going to push the fleece into place so we can get a little bit of the glue on the fleece. Just like so. And it's already holding not too bad, so that's a good sign. Again, this isn't going to be super contour. This will just add a little bit. So once we're there, we're going to lift it up again, and then we're going to stick the hairdryer in here. And now we're really going to press it and lock it down. There we go. That's what we're talking about. Much better.
Yep. Look. Puppet builders go out of their way to avoid using contact cement, but in the end, it's always the best tool. Always. There we go. And you can see the difference that makes. So, and there we go. So there's the two. That's not too bad.
Now we're going to add a little bit of shading in here. And to do that, we're going to need more of these. I just use disposable makeup applicators. Something very, very thin and small. And a marker of a darker color than what you have as the skin. Let's try this. So, you know, let's go to this camera here. I wonder if we can go like this. It's not too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade a little bit. I mean, that's really tough to see. Let's try this, maybe. And shade. And don't add too much, just a little tiny bit. But we're going to put like a line there, and quickly, before it dries, we're going to take our makeup applicator and we're just going to kind of blend this. And it just adds a little dimension. This is what I did with both the Oracle and Frankie's ears. I use a slightly thicker marker for those, so this line's a bit sharper. But if you get to it quickly, you can kind of blend it out. Give it some nice gradient. You see? There we go. And same deal. We're about to get to the last part of this. What time is it? 11:32. Good timing. Almost like I know what I'm doing, believe it or not. Despite the evidence. If you want to blend it even more, you can get some rubbing alcohol and dilute it. And that will kind of help thin the ink out a little bit. There we go. So there are our ears. So now that we're here, now that we've got these, like so, the last step is getting them onto the head and stitching them down. This is another stumbling block for a lot of folks, I think. So let's go over that, shall we? I'm going to go to, I'm going to go to this camera to start. I'm going to switch around. So what I do, again, there's no universal rule. This is just what I do, is I'll take the puppet, I'll make sure that the mouth is closed. I've got a chip clip in there that pulls the mouth closed because the head's in the kind of, that's the neutral position that you want. And then I'll take one of the features, whether it be nose, ears, whatever, and just kind of get a feel for how they should go. Do we want them pointing like this? Do we want them like, you know, just kind of place it how it feels right. This is looking good. And once you've got a kind of sense of where it should go, how far up on the head, Yeah, I think we'll go with that. So hold it in place and then start pinning it. I don't think that the top can will be helpful for this, but let's give it a shot. Wow, sure isn't. Let's see. How about that? Be a bit better. So I usually pin the top, the extremes, the top and the bottom, get those in place, and then start pinning around the circumference. And in this case, my pins aren't going all the way in because this stand is in the way. Let me just pull this up here. You do want to try and get the pins to go flush. If that's helpful. Yeah, I guess you can kind of make out what's going on there. For the algorithm, hello! See, that's the YouTube chat thing right there. I don't, if you've been on YouTube and chatting, I apologize for not seeing it. The chat thing is being weird. All right, so there we go. Let's go back to this. So there we go. We've got it pinned all the way around, how we would like it to sit on the head. And then I don't pin the second one. I always just do the first one and then we put the second one on because it's always going to be a bit more uneven than you planned. So I don't plan. I just do. So in order to stitch this on, which is the right way to do this, if you're going fleece on fleece, you got to stitch. If you're going fleece on fur, then you want to shave it down to the netting and then you can glue it. But that's how Frankie's ears are done, for example. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start around the back. I wonder if we can do it with a top cam here. Let's try it. Maybe if I do this and take it off the stand in a way, I can do it so I can see what I'm doing and also you can see what I'm doing. I guess that's not too bad. Get right down here. Okay. So I'm going to put some more pins in there around the back at least. It's a little loose and floppy. You want to try and get this anchored in place if you can. And we're going to grab some thread that is a blending color. And we're going to ladder stitch around the join. Thread this. And when I do ladder stitching of a feature from the outside, like ears, noses, that kind of thing, I always use a curved, this is an upholstery needle. It's much easier to ladder stitch something from the outside if you use a curved needle. So I'm just going to tie off the thread here. And get it all tangled up. Okay. Ready to go. So I'm going to stand up for this because I apologize for not being on camera. You know what my face looks like. So I start out by making a knot inside. So I loop it through with the inside. Pull it through. And then pull it through the thread once. Make sure my head isn't on camera. And that will tie it off and secure it. And now we just start ladder stitching. If you don't know how to ladder stitch, there are lots of tutorials online. I am clearly not equipped to shoot a close-up tutorial like that. But there isn't really a particular direction you should go in, just go with the flow. I always start around the back because you're probably going to see a stitch when you finish it. And so you want that sort of out of the visual range. And make them as small and even as you can. But we're only going through the fleece. We're going to try not go through anything else. And there's different schools of thought about doing a ladder stitch. Do you pull it tight every stitch? Do you do a bunch of stitches and then pull it tight? I know people who favor either. I tend to pull it tight every stitch. I've yet to understand why you wouldn't, but it's probably just a me problem. But as you come to a pin, you just pop the pin out, because now the stitches are going to hold that in place. And just go slow. That's the other thing with this kind of thing particularly. Don't rush it. If you rush it, you're going to get tangled thread. Something's gonna go wrong, and you're not going to be able to fix it. Once a stitch like this goes wrong, you got to pull it all out and do it again. This is one long continuous stitch, basically. That's how ladder stitching works, unfortunately. Unlike a locking whip stitch, one stitch pops and the whole thing unravels. So avoid that if you can. But this is a little bit awkward. I usually do this on the stand, which is a lot easier. And you know, now that I've done this, maybe I should put it on the stand and we'll just edit around this. How's that? Let me just switch to this. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so when you get to the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just loop this around a few times and tie it off. You will end up seeing like a stitch visibly. That's why I start around the back and finish around the back, because you're just getting it kind of out of the way. You can, if you're very judicious, you can blend this as well. It's just really tricky, and I don't worry about it. So you just want to go like 2 or 3 times round the both pieces of fabric. I'm going to try and go through the same hole if you can. And then we're going to tie it off. Tie it off by looping it through and then looping it through again, making a knot, tightening that down like so. And then we're going to get some scissors out and clip as close to the fabric as you dare without cutting a stitch. And there we go. So, you know, that's pretty well hidden regardless. So, let's see what we've got. It does have the green. There's a lot of green going on. Let's see. So after all of that, look, it's an ear attached to the head. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Bad not it is. I don't know. Anyway, there we go. So there is how to do that. So to do the other one, same deal. Pin it in place so it's as even with the first one as you can, and just do that again. And that's how I do my ears. And with that, we are done. So thank you for watching, and I'll hand this back to editing Kevin now.